Despite several interventions being implemented by different stakeholders, the prevalence of tobacco uptake in Zambia remains high, to the detriment of not only the human life, but also the health burden it places on the health sector. The name is Winston Mavor, and thank you for joining me on the People's Space podcast. And today we will be discussing matters related to tobacco legislation in the country. And I am privileged, of course, to be joined by a seasoned Honorable Christopher Kalila, all the way from Lukulu East, representing, of course, the people of Lukulu East and the nation at large, when you take into consideration his extensive, brilliant work within the space of tobacco. He is also the chairperson of the Health Committee at Parliament, and he is the founding chairperson of the Anti-Tobacco Caucus at Parliament. You are welcome, Honourable, and it's a great pleasure to have you on the People's Space podcast.
Thank you very much, and indeed it is an honor for me to appear at this very, very important forum to which we reach out to many people of like minds.
Okay, so before we just get started, Honourable, first of all, how are the people in Lukulu East?
Well, the people in Lukulu East are well, of course, like all Zambians. They have some challenges. They also have the good side of things. So really at the moment, I think that they are pretty happy with the various initiatives that we are giving them in the constituency, many of which are as a result of the Constituency Development Fund. And for us in the rural parts of this country, for a very long time, as you know, we were denied of the much needed development. Most of the things were happening in the cities, like here in Lusaka, Ndola, Kitwe, etc., etc. But since the change of administration 2021, we have seen allocation of funds for rural development. So we are benefiting in that respect, and we are doing schools, we are doing clinics, we are giving water, we are building staff houses, we are doing bridges. So we think that slowly, God willing, and if this is sustained over a long period of time, we should be able to see a reversal of those poverty indicators which have been very, very bad for the rural communities.
Brilliant. Now, obviously, there's some people, Honourable, that are seeing you for the very first time, apart from seeing you debate in Parliament and hearing you on Parliament radio, representing the people of Lukulu effectively. We would like to know, who is Honourable Christopher Kalila outside Parliament, outside your work within the tobacco space?
Thank you very much. So my name actually is Honorable Dr. Christopher Kalila. I am a medical doctor by training. A proud graduate of the University of Zambia School of Medicine. I graduated actually, by the way, in 1992. I don't know what you were doing at that time. I don't know what you were doing at that time. But basically, my medical practice was prematurely cut short by my entrance into the political space. So I entered Parliament in 2008 by way of a nomination for 3 years. Up to 2011, when I actually contested, I won the seat. Again, I contested in 2016, I won the seat. Again, I contested in 2021, I won the seat. So basically, I am doing my 3rd term of an elected member of Parliament, and then I did another 3 years as a nominated member of Parliament. Because of my background, obviously from the health sector, I have been privileged to chair the Health Committee for a very long time now. Most of my colleagues in the health space, including civil society, know me because I work collaboratively with them in the area of public health, especially around legislation and also around advocacy. I live here in Lusaka. I'm married to one wife, and I have
very important.
Very important. I have one son and 2 daughters. My last born daughter is going in 2nd year at the University of Zambia.
Is she studying medicine as well?
No. None of them want to do medicine. I've tried my best to get them to follow my
Does anybody want to become a politician?
But none of them. Politicians probably one, but I'm discouraging them. I would like them to be technocrats. I have a soft spot for technocrats, and also various other Zambians. You see, it's not only about politicians. each and every one of us can contribute. And I believe that is high time also we began to recognize the work of several other Zambians outside politics, such as yourselves, journalists who bring so much information, who are the mirror of society, who hold government to account, the engineers, the doctors, the accountants, several Zambians. So I would like them to participate in that respect. So I have tried, and they've told me that no, they must do what they want to do. So basically, you young people who belong to the so-called Gen Z believe in a little bit of independence. You don't want us, your parents, to prescribe something for you. You believe you are able to do that which you feel, where you have passion, and that way you feel you will be able to do it better. So on that basis, I've considered and given up on them to do that. But other than that, of course, as I have said, I represent people in Lukulu. This is my third term as an elected member of parliament. And we've done so many things together with the people. And I would like to believe that I've tried my best to save them. And probably that's the result, the reason why they have re-elected me 3 times. However, outside parliament, I do a lot of work in public health, particularly collaborating with civil society. I am an anti-smoking tobacco activist who has worked with Center for Trade Policy, with several other civil society in trying to push our governments, because I've saved several governments, as you can see, to try and bring legislation around tobacco control. I also work in the area of sexual reproductive health and rights. And I also work particularly, more recent in the last 2 years, I since formed an NGO called Coalition Against Illicit Alcohol in Zambia, because I've also seen the negative health consequences, the consequences of illicit consumption of alcohol among our young people, especially junta, tujiri, and so on and so forth. These things are fueling mental health. They are causing bad behavior and delinquency among our youths, leading to the so-called junkies. And I've dedicated a bit of my time to try and bring this issue to the fore by trying to create a social movement that can take a stand against junta, so that our future is protected by having very responsible, morally upright young people who are able to contribute to building and developing this country. So basically, I work with several other organizations in Zambia and outside Zambia in public health. As I've told you, 1, tobacco control; 2, sexual reproductive health and rights; 3, antimicrobial resistance, which is another subject; number 4, non-communicable diseases. These are diseases that you don't catch. It can be very simple if you don't catch from one person to the other, but you get them as a result of the way you live your lifestyle. And these are things like hypertension. I'm sure you have heard about strokes. You've heard of diabetes, epilepsy, mental health, for example. And these things are increasing in the Zambian space. I'm sure many of the people who are listening to us and viewing us have had a relative, 1 or 2, who is living with any of these, and they are on the rise, and they are causing premature death. So also we need to advocate more for our respective governments or jurisdiction where we are, to scale up programs in trying to ensure that we sensitize people, we ensure that they live healthy lifestyles, they exercise, they cut down on alcohol and tobacco too, by the way. Yeah, and also finally they eat healthy diets. That's the way. We are what we take in.
Yeah, true.
And that's what makes us
indeed
who
very
we
profound. Honorable. When you talk about the issue of we are what we eat, I mean, it is just a statement that truly, looking at the way things are, and as you've stated, it's very much, it can be very much proven. It is something that we can see in our lifestyles. Now, let me turn your attention. You talked about the issue of cutting out tobacco. And one of the key areas that can help us achieve that is legislation. So let's start by, first of all, highlighting what is the significance of legislation when it comes to regulating the tobacco sector, be it uptake or the businesses therein.
Yeah. So basically, in any undertaking, when you are governing or you are in leadership, as we have been privileged to be, it means that we have been given the mandate to try and run or govern this country on your behalf. And it therefore means that we have to create the rules and guidelines that ensure that the citizens thrive. Okay? We can't leave it an open. I mean, in any undertaking, there must be a referee. Okay, so if we leave it an open-ended, imagine a society where nobody simply cares about what happens. Okay, so human beings would tend to do all sorts of things. Some of them will endanger themselves, some will endanger others. So you have to bring some form of order and control, organization, and regulation. In this particular case, you are talking about tobacco. So you believe that you are asking why we should have legislation about the smoking of tobacco. Now, you know that tobacco, the active ingredient is nicotine, and everyone knows that tobacco is harmful to the health of the users. So if we just leave it open-ended like that, without coming up with rules to protect the health of the citizens, you will find then that it will be a free-for-all situation. People will be smoking all sorts of things.
Some people argue, Honorable, and say, well, smoking is my choice. It's not like it's not like I'm putting it in your body, I'm putting it in my body.
Yeah, so we must also be careful about choice. Okay? As I've indicated to you, if you let human beings do what they want to do, and if you are in a position of authority, you will realize sooner rather than later that that choice is leading some individuals to harming their health or harming the health of others. So when you smoke, for example, in public, for you who has a choice to smoke, you could argue, as you have said, that, well, because it's your choice, you should be left alone. But what about the person next to you who has not taken that choice? He is also becoming a secondary smoker or a passive smoker as a result of that smoke which is going. So the issue is, should we leave it like that simply because you have the choice? What about the other individual who doesn't have the choice? So we have to come up then with rules and regulations to protect the health of all, including those that are smoking. That's number one. Number two, I have just explained to you that tobacco is actually implicated. There's a sufficient body of evidence to suggest that tobacco is actually implicated in many of the non-communicable diseases that I've highlighted to you, okay? Such as cardiovascular and heart diseases, such as diabetes, mental health. I was just telling you about the harmful use of alcohol and what it is doing to the mental health of some of our young people. If you go to China right now, you will find that more than half of the bed space in there, some of our citizens who are admitted there, can be attributable to harmful use of alcohol. Now, as a government, should you just leave it like that and watch? So you have to do something. Same, even tobacco. The fact that it is one of the risk factors for non-communicable diseases, should we leave it like that? No, because eventually we are going to push the burden of disease for this country so high. I have indicated to you that non-communicable diseases are a major cause of premature death. People dying less than 70 years. Many of them because of these things: strokes, hypertension, diabetes, mental health, accidents, epilepsy, all sorts of things. And you also know that in that smoke, just burning one cigarette, there are so many chemicals, more than 4,000 at least what we know, that are released in there. So the person smoking over time is harming their health, but also the person next. If you are smoking, for example, in a public place, it means you are actually, not only are you polluting the atmosphere, but all those that are next to you, you're actually endangering their health as well. Because of that, any responsible society must then sit down and say, hang on, it is not about choice here, it's about the health of you and the person next to you. So you must come up then with rules and regulations. Or take it further, you actually enact laws that ensure that there is control. That one, you can't smoke in public. If you want to smoke, you must excuse yourself because we want you to protect the health of those who do not smoke. Number two, we want to limit access to children. If you don't have rules, like I've told you, sooner or later you discover that even young people, 6, 7-year-old, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, will start smoking. I'm sure there are reports already like that, where some of our young people are smoking. So you need rules like that. You need legislation to control, to ensure that public health is protected. And that is the importance of having legislation. You must put barriers into the way of those that think that because it's choice, they can do what they want.
Yeah.
Look at what's happening now. We have electronic cigarettes. You have these things about shisha. You have the now even what they call vaping. I mean, you guys know better than I do.
Yeah.
So all these things, if we leave it like that, it will be a hula baloo and it will be all sorts of things. Sodoma and Gomorrah.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Honorable. Now, talking about legislation, obviously, I'd like to find out, are you satisfied? I know that you indicated earlier on that you work with different stakeholders in ensuring that we have adequate legislation to regulate the tobacco sector. What I'd like to find out from you is, are you satisfied currently with the pace at which actualization or enactment of the tobacco control bill is moving in this country?
Certainly not. In fact, that is one of the reasons that together with many, many colleagues, in the National Assembly, we started this journey many years ago, maybe somewhere before 2016, actually, with support of Professor Goman, the Center for Primary Healthcare Research in Zambia, and many civil society who believe that as a country, it is high time we began to regulate the consumption of tobacco and tobacco products on the Zambian market. We don't have comprehensive legislation around tobacco use or consumption in the country. Now, in 2008, the World Health Organization, this is a global body that advises governments that advises governments on matters of health, who brings governments together to look and actualize the right to health of all the citizens. Because as you know, you and me, we have the right to health enshrined in our constitutions, the Bill of Rights, so to speak. And so it is for the entire world, for the members of the World Health Organization. The world in 2008 realized that the consumption of tobacco was on the increase and that it was harming the health of the world population. And they decided to come together, okay, and come up with an agreement to say that, well, look, we can't just watch like this because we have sufficient evidence to suggest that smoking is very harmful. It causes so many negative health consequences, cancer of the lungs, the non-communicable diseases, as I've told you, which include cancers, and tobacco is a risk factor. So what can we do about this? So they came up with an agreement, which is known as the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. A convention because they made an agreement, and many countries agreed. So they said, look, when we go back to our respective countries, can we do something? Can we do something about this? Let's not just leave it open. Can we do something about access to easy access to tobacco and tobacco products by young people? Can we do something about advertising around issues on tobacco? Can we do something to reduce the demand or cut the supply? In terms, how can we do it? They came up with various proposals. Maybe increase taxation on tobacco products. If you do that, then it will not be cheap and easily accessible as it is. Can we do something about smoking in public spaces? So they came up with that, and those that agreed signed up. For us, we signed up also in 2008. One of the key result areas from there was that when we go back to your respective countries, these things that we have agreed, can we now then put them into a law? Okay? Can we now then put them into a law? Such as, obviously, not advertising, because when you advertise, you make it sweeter and appealing, and really psychologically people feel. You remember I don't know how many of you remember things like Rothman's, your gateway to smoking pleasure, stuff like that. So you young people, when you hear like that, you get hooked onto it. So can we do something about that? Can we do something about smoking public spaces so that if it's your choice, as you have said, let it not be the choice for the other guy who has clearly stated that he doesn't want smoke, Can we do something about taxation? Maybe if we want to generate resources, this is another area, because if you tax, then it makes it a bit expensive, people can't afford it, then you start to reduce the rates, etc., etc. Put these things in a law so that they are enforceable. And when you have a law, what happens to those who break the law? Then they have to be punished or penalized, right? So that's the importance of law. When you don't have a law, you can't penalize them. You just say, hey, stop it every time. Please stop it. But people are not stopping. But since then, we have failed to come up with a comprehensive tobacco legislation compared to many of our colleagues and friends in other countries who have moved swiftly to enact tobacco legislation, such as South Africa and etc., etc. Here on the African continent, many have actually moved a step further by enacting tobacco control laws. So when it's at proposal stage and you are still trying to craft it and you make a proposal, it's called a bill. But once it goes to Parliament, the members look at it, the other stakeholders look at it, and finally when it's enacted, the president signs or assents, then it becomes an act. We don't have a tobacco control act as I speak today. However, we do have one aspect of tobacco control that was introduced soon after that in 2008 by the Ministry of Local Government. This is a statutory instrument that banned smoking in public places. So at least on that score, you could say we have a partial legislation by way of a statutory instrument. And this was introduced in this country. At the time, the minister was Honorable Sylvia Masevo. Those of us in this space are very grateful and remember her for this, because she took a step to go forward. As a result, as you can see today, you can't smoke in a public place. At least I have been observing for Zambia, whether you are traveling in a bus, you can't smoke. If you are in a restaurant, you can't just smoke because of this law. And this is what we want. But we want to go further. We want a comprehensive law that takes into account many of these parameters and factors that I've highlighted to you. Access, making it less affordable, making it safer for our children, and trying to make sure that we don't prey on the minds of people through advertising. When you had to put up huge billboards and so on, Peter Stuyvesant or something, we don't need to do that. But also to warn, we want it written in a law that the producers, when they make this, they must follow certain parameters, such as warning the consumers, which they already do. Those of you, if there are any who have a choice of smoking here, know that on the cigarette packet, it's written there that tobacco consumption is harmful to your health. Now, some of them write in very small print where we don't want that. We want big, clear. Okay? We also want some graphic depiction so that yourself, you can be reminded that smoking is dangerous to your health. These things have to be put in a piece of law, which is now what you are talking about, comprehensive tobacco legislation. Unfortunately, as of now, as we speak, we have not yet enacted that law in this country.
My guest is Honorable Christopher Kalila, who represents the people of Lukulu East, and he is the chairperson of the Health Committee at Parliament, and also he is the founding chairperson of the Anti-Tobacco Caucus at Parliament, and we are looking at tobacco legislation. We will take a break, and on the other side, we will continue discussing all things tobacco legislation. Stay tuned.
What do we want? Tobacco control. What do we want? Tobacco control. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Tobacco control. What do we want? Tobacco control. When do we want it? Now.
My Minister of Health, my President, we need the bill. Where is the bill? Over 7,000 people are dying and the bill is stuck. No, sir. No, sir. We've lost so many lives.
We are aware that the bill the drafting of the bill is in process. It's just taken too long. After much consultation with the Ministry of Health, we have written letters to ask to follow up on the bill. We have written letters to the Ministry of Justice. We have not gotten feedback yet. So today we decided as young people, because we've noticed that the tobacco industry is targeting young people. You can tell by how much the shisha is being advertised. You can tell by how attractive they are making these tobacco products now to target young people, to hook young people as early as 13 years old, so that they have lifelong customers. As young people, we are refusing this, and we're standing very firm and saying we need the tobacco control bill. We need to safeguard our lives. We need to safeguard present and future generations.
Welcome back to the People's Space with me, Winston Mavor, and we are discussing tobacco legislation in Zambia, looking at how far the law has gone and the impact it has had on the tobacco sector in this country at large. And my guest is Honorable Christopher Kalila, who represents the people of Lukulu. And of course, he is a public health expert, medical doctor by training, of course, as you heard in the beginning. And he is providing some perspectives and insight on this important topic of tobacco legislation. Now, you can stand a chance to be able to win some amazing prizes by simply liking, sharing, and commenting on the Center for Trade Policy and Development YouTube page and Facebook page where the People's Space podcast broadcasts. Please make sure that you tag people, and remember, the tag or post that gets as many interactions as possible gets to have that opportunity to win amazing prizes. You are talking about goodies such as mug cups, shirts, and various other accessories that you do not want to miss out on. So let's get interactive and let's get busy on the People's Space podcast social media handles, which is the Center for Trade Policy and Development. Doc or Honorable, since
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Whichever applies.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
Yeah. So one of the things that you were talking about before we went on a break was the issue of the significance of tobacco legislation. Would like to find out what are some of the major challenges? Where are we with this particular law?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so thank you very much. Like I've indicated, it has been a long journey. Many players in this space who have been united together to try and push for a comprehensive tobacco legislation to be enacted by our National Assembly so that we can begin to deal with non-communicable diseases, so we can also begin to get our citizens to realize the harmful nature of tobacco and what it's doing to their bodies, and also basically for society at large. And it has not been an easy battle. As you can see, the battle started long time ago. I told you way back 2008 when the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control was signed, and then there has been a push. Can we now put these things into perspective? Can we domesticate, meaning we put it into a law so that then we know that those that deliberately do not follow, then they can be penalized and so on and so forth. But that has not happened. So one of the major challenges has been the delay in bringing this law to the National Assembly. As I said, as of today, it still not has come. But there has been some appreciable progress made. First, the Ministry of Health, who have the mandate to protect the health of citizens, have also been a part of this push towards enacting a comprehensive tobacco legislation, other than the SI, which I've talked about. And several other stakeholders have also, meeting after meeting has been held over many years. Campaigns have happened over many years, including some by civil society, such as the Center for Trade Policy. Members of Parliament have been lobbied, picketed, and so on, and pushed to try and bring this law so we can begin to deal with this aspect of harmful use of tobacco, including, the novel aspects of tobacco which we never used to have in my time, such as vaping, shisha, and sunko, this snuff and so on, which are also harming the health of our people. So there has been a spirited fight to do this. And I thank all the players that have been involved in all this. It's been the right thing to do. But of course, there has also been those who have been opposed to this push. Why? Because they believe that tobacco is a cash crop which can generate revenues for this country, and that in their view, they feel that as we push for this tobacco control, probably we could be tampering around with their abilities to grow tobacco and leverage profits out of it, which is not the case. The tobacco control activists have been pushing for the control of smoking, protecting public health, ensuring that those that do not smoke are protected, those that smoke are warned on the harmful effects of tobacco, and also reducing the demand, and the supply, protecting our children, So all these are good things, and there's nowhere where us, the tobacco, anti-tobacco activists, have actually said that we are asking government to ban the growing of tobacco. We've never said that.
Very important.
So it has just been we've never said that. It's just basically been a misunderstanding. But we see things from a health side. That even as you produce, as you grow tobacco, be mindful of the fact that this tobacco that you are finally going to put into a factory and produce those cigarettes, this is what it's going to do to the health of our citizens. And because of that, can we then have rules? This is what we are saying. But some of our colleagues and friends on the other side, the production side of the actual tobacco, have actually misunderstood this. They have tended to oppose the enactment of this very law, thinking that it is threatening their ability to actually generate revenues. Others have argued that tobacco is actually a low-hanging fruit which the country can use to grow the economy and the GDP. And so if we try to bring in all these things, maybe we will be a threat to the industry. It's far from the truth. It's far from the truth. I can rest assured that there's nothing like that in this advocacy, in this campaign. So because of this back and forth, the two sides, I think that it has tended to delay the enactment of this law.
You've mentioned the colleagues on the other side who are opposing the enactment of the law, and one thing they clearly have is the financial muscle, owing to the multiple sales of the product and the huge demand that it has. in the absence of the law, obviously it becomes difficult for you people on this other side, to be able to advocate effectively and fill the gap in telling people to say, look, in as much as it is packaged nicely like this in an advert, it's actually dangerous for you. So I just wanted you to speak to your collaboration with other CSOs and like-minded organizations such as the Center for Trade Policy and Development. How are you feeling this gap as we wait for the legislation to come in?
Yeah, so in fact, I was heading in that direction by indicating to you that there's been a lot of progress along the way. And most of it has been premised, one, on wide consultative processes, sustained advocacy and lobbying to the government to see the importance of protecting public health around the issues of tobacco smoking. And there has been a strong body and strong lobby, including campaigns, around this issue, notwithstanding the fact that, as I've highlighted to you, there have also been those that have been against this. But I am aware, as a chairperson of the Health Committee, that various meetings have taken place to try and address the concerns of both sides of this debate. The Minister of Agriculture, for example, is a major stakeholder in this. The Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry is a major, because they are looking at trade and boosting exports around tobacco and so on, cigarettes and so on and so forth. And so the Minister of Finance, for example, when you talk about taxation and so on, so there is a multiplicity of stakeholders who have to sit down and look at this. And I can tell you very happily that these various groupings have sat through meetings to thrash out common ground for the enactment of this law, including us, members of Parliament, who have participated in this. And I'm very confident that sooner rather than later, the Tobacco Control Act shall hit the floor of Parliament, because it's the right thing to do. And government has no reason not to, because they are the ones with the mandate to afford well-being to the citizens of this country. In fact, I am aware that there has been a draft, except that there are internal processes that have to be done through the Ministry of Justice and also the various players. In fact, I'm aware that this current administration did approve in principle, Cabinet did approve in principle, probably 2-3 years ago, for the introduction of this law in Parliament. So meaning that this administration of the New Dawn government of the UPND is agreed that we need to protect public health. But before we do that, can we look at what are the other arguments of the others who are opposed to it? So this is what is going on. And I think where we are now, we have reached the tail end. It's just a matter of time. Speaking as a legislator, I believe that there is no reason why government cannot bring this law. And of course, as members of Parliament belonging to the Caucus on Framework Control Tobacco, we have taken this matter on the floor of Parliament. We've engaged our colleagues, the ministers, and we've been assured that it's just a matter of time. And I know that very soon we'll be celebrating the enactment of this law. It's been a long battle, but I think we are almost there. So we just need to be patient, but we should not release the foot off the gas pedal.
Okay. So you talked about the act earlier, the statutory instrument, that bans public smoking and ensures that tobacco uptake is regulated and controlled in the country. Other people have argued that in as much as the law is good, as we get to conclude, unfortunately, due to the interest of time, the enforcement of critical SIs such as that one have not really received the adequate support that they should have, at that local authority level. Your thoughts on that? How can that be changed?
Yeah, so basically enforcement in this country has always been a challenge. We're a country definitely that has got very good policies. We realize the importance of policy frameworks around many issues, not only tobacco. I've just told you about alcohol. If you go and look at our liquor licensing laws, very brilliant laws. They stop people from trading in alcohol without a license. You can't just open any outlet unless you are licensed. But we know, if you look into various suburbs in Lusaka, we have liquor shops. And I'm not sure if all of those are licensed or not. But the law is very clear. You can't have a bar near a school or a church. It's there in the law. But we know that that's not the case. Okay? You can't walk in the streets while drinking. You're even posing, as you guys call it. You're posing with a kabia. The law is against that. You can be arrested for that. But it doesn't happen. Why? Because of the weak enforcement.
It's even a trend on social media now.
Exactly. So it's the same, obviously, with the anti-smoking laws that relate to public smoking. But many premises definitely have put some signposts in public places, which is a requirement that this is a no-smoking area, and so on and so forth. And we have also seen, by the way, when it comes to public smoking, that the smokers themselves somehow have understood this SI. They regulate themselves. It's not uncommon for people to excuse themselves when you are sitting around having a drink or something, to say, no, naenda panja nkachai koka kagwai, or go to the loo, and so on and so forth. So enforcement is true. It's very weak. It's something that can be improved upon. But one of the reasons is obviously that there is usually that we are given is staffing problems for these inspectors, the health inspectors, and so on and so forth. So we hope that as a country we can improve in our enforcement. Even as we enact, I still have very much hope that the Tobacco Control Act will hit the floor of Parliament. Even as we enact it, we are hoping to see a robust enforcement mechanism for this law. We MPs have not yet seen the draft. We are waiting for it, the day that it will be presented. And we hope to obviously consult many of you, our citizens, experts, ordinary people, on some of the provisions that may be there. But the most important thing is that we now realize that we need a comprehensive laws to protect the public health around tobacco. Young people, I'm sure you all agree, these same Sunko things, they are not regulated. We don't even know what is the contents of those things are, other than tobacco. What else do they add there? Do you know? You don't know. These shisha things in other countries, they're banned. Because it's an entry point. Someday, today you are doing that. It's tobacco. The next day, we don't know what is added in there. And the fourth day, we also don't know. So we need enforcement.
Thank you very much for coming through, Honorable.
Thank you very much.
My guest of the People's Space has been Honorable Kalila, who represents the people of Lukulu, and we have been discussing tobacco legislation in Zambia. And the words of hope from the Honorable himself is that it is but just a matter of time. The tobacco bill will be brought before Parliament, and what is comforting is the assurance that, of course, the process will be consultative so that it does not only benefit one side and disadvantage the other side of this particular debate or of this particular policy. So it will be an inclusive law, and that is something that I feel is very, very much important that the Honorable has highlighted in this particular conversation. And as we wrap up, remember, you can win yourself some amazing prizes by simply interacting with us on the Center for Trade Policy and Development YouTube channel and Facebook page under the same handle, particularly on the People's Space podcast episodes. As you interact and watch these episodes, remember to drop a comment, and whichever comment or share gets more likes stands a chance of winning amazing prizes ranging from t-shirts, caps, mug cups, and other amazing prizes that I do not want to preempt, but you will be able to see some of the winners that we will be able to share on our social media platform. The name is Wenson Mavor. Thank you for watching The People's Space. See you next time, and the conversation continues.